this move towards unilateralism may put into question the United States actually coming to the rescue of a NATO country. What do you think?
So Piers Morgan just dropped a crucial analysis about NATO's future and America's shifting global role. With Trump back in office and traditional alliances under strain, this isn't just academic theory anymore. It's immediate reality. We're breaking down why the post-war order is genuinely fracturing and what comes next.
Historic alliances are being throttled by territorial ambition. American isolationism has become American imperialism. The cozy idea of a rules-based order governed by the messy patchwork of international law seems to have collapsed. And that was just the last 2 weeks.
This captures exactly what's happening. The Bretton Woods system established American-led institutions like NATO, the UN Security Council, and the dollar as reserve currency. Article 5's mutual defense guarantee held for 75 years, but when great powers start ignoring international law, smaller nations question if those guarantees still matter.
The United States itself is unwinding its own global order. The world's most powerful country is in the throes of a political revolution. And that is certainly how a lot of people see it.
Absolutely right. America built the liberal international order through Marshall Plan reconstruction, NATO expansion, and trade agreements that benefited everyone. Now dismantling it represents the biggest shift since 1945. From a rules-based system to pure power politics where might makes right.
I mean, this time, Trump goes into Venezuela in the dark of night in a brilliantly skilled military operation with no casualties on the American side and snatches a very divisive, corrupt leader who probably is a drug-running gangster who certainly has defied the democratic rule of his country by refusing to leave office when he lost the election and so on. And he would say with Iran, you've got a vile regime that frankly needs toppling, and the people clearly want it toppled. That's why they're hitting the streets in such big numbers.
The efficiency here is striking. Compare this to Iraq's decade-long occupation, costing trillions and thousands of American lives, or Afghanistan's 20-year commitment. Surgical operations with clear objectives and immediate extraction represent a fundamentally different approach to projecting American power globally.
He spent 4 years out of office ruminating about what he could have done differently, what he could have done better. And he said, we're really prepared this time.
Exactly. Since 1979, Iran has executed over 800 women for moral crimes, banned female judges, and requires male guardian permission for travel. The hijab protests following Mahsa Amini's death showed genuine grassroots opposition. Foreign interests supporting freedom movements doesn't invalidate their legitimacy.
If what we're seeing is Russia acting with impunity, the United States now acting with impunity because they believe the world order is no longer fit for purpose, and then, for argument's sake, hypothetically, China looks at all this, sees maybe the United States take Greenland and says, okay, we're taking Taiwan. You've lost your high moral ground. What are you going to say? We shouldn't be allowed to do this, even though we want to do it for security reasons or whatever. So it seems to me, in a way, what you were predicting has kind of come to fruition, hasn't it?
This domino effect is already visible. Russia invaded Ukraine claiming security concerns, America acts unilaterally in Venezuela and threatens Greenland, and China watches closely. Beijing's calculus on Taiwan absolutely changes when Washington abandons the moral high ground and embraces pure realpolitik.
Would the United States automatically, under Article 5, come to the help and defense of that NATO country? And I was emphatic that I absolutely believe they would, that nothing that Donald Trump has said about any of this has made me think in that eventuality, the United States would not stand full square behind a NATO country.
This confidence is well-founded. Article 5 was invoked once after 9/11, and every NATO member responded. Trump's pressure actually strengthened the alliance. European defense spending jumped from 1.4% to 2.7% of GDP. American credibility remains intact despite rhetoric about burden sharing.
A lot of the people who have been so vocal, either by joining marches or Hollywood stars or wherever it may be, big media figures, racing to be front and center in supporting the Palestinians, for example, in Gaza, have been notable by their silence about the Iranian protesters risking their lives, quite literally, for freedom and democracy. Now, it may well be, I'm sure it is, that obviously it suits Israel and America that this uprising is happening. Obviously, they would like it to be successful and that the Ayatollah gets removed and the mullahs are gone.
The double standard is glaring. Hollywood celebrities like Mark Ruffalo and Susan Sarandon regularly post about Gaza, but stayed silent when Iranian women burned hijabs, risking execution. Mahsa Amini's death sparked nationwide protests, yet the same voices championing Palestinian liberation ignored Iranian women's struggle.
In Iran, you have an uprising not dissimilar to what we've just seen in Syria, actually, which ended up toppling Assad very quickly, with Syrian people leading that, to the extent that Putin just disappeared because he could feel that this was going to happen. And I feel, I hope on behalf of the Iranian people that they are successful. I think they might be this time round. But I don't see a comparison to what has happened in Gaza.
The Syrian parallel is perfect. Assad's regime collapsed within days once popular support evaporated and external backing wavered. Iran's theocracy faces similar pressure: economic collapse, widespread protests, and regional proxy failures. When authoritarian regimes lose legitimacy, they fall fast.
I think that you've heard genocidal language from people like Smodrich and Ben-Gvir, but I don't think it can be constructed as a genocide, because I don't think people who actually wage a genocide are interested in doing ceasefires, which we've now had for, thank God, quite a few weeks and months.
This distinction matters legally. Rwanda's genocide killed 800,000 in 100 days with no ceasefires. Armenia faced systematic extermination with no humanitarian corridors. Conflicts with negotiated truces, prisoner exchanges, and aid deliveries, however tragic, follow different patterns than genocidal campaigns.
If you go back to life in Iran in 1975 and compare it to today, it is chalk and cheese. It's become a dark, depressing, repressive regime with extreme religious autocracy leveled against the people. And yes, the economy is in a terrible state, but that's not just down to sanctions. And the sanctions are as a direct result of the way the Iranian regime has behaved, particularly in the Middle East, where it's sponsored terrorism through the Houthis, through Hezbollah, through Hamas. It's been one of the main organs for all the terrorism in that region ever since it came into power.
The transformation is staggering. Pre-1979, Iran had female cabinet ministers, unveiled women in universities, and cultural freedom. The Islamic Revolution eliminated women's rights, established morality police, and created the axis of resistance, funding terrorism across the region through billions in proxy support.
The $2 million market opened with Polymarket asking simply, will the Iranian regime fall before the end of 2027? In November, there was a 15% chance. As we speak, that's risen to 55% chance. And the markets are also showing a whopping 80% chance of US airstrikes before the end of this month.
Polymarket's track record is impressive. Correctly predicted Trump's victory when polls showed Harris ahead, and Brexit when traditional pollsters missed it. Money talks differently than opinions. That 55% probability reflects real intelligence about regime stability, not wishful thinking.
You know what? The world is an unpredictable place, but I like I said, I love talking to you.
This analysis cuts through partisan narratives on both sides. Independent voices willing to challenge conventional wisdom about American foreign policy, Iranian protests, and NATO's future provide the nuanced perspective mainstream media often misses. That intellectual honesty is increasingly rare and valuable.